This is a Rooster Teeth production.
There's a rumor floating that the Legend of Zelda may replace the attraction we're talking about today. Find out what it is on today's Annual Pass. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Annual Pass. This is the podcast where we talk about all things theme parks, rides, shows, attractions. If it happens inside of a theme park, it happens here on Annual Pass. I'm your host, Jack Pattillo, and of course, joining me as always is my lovely, talented co-host, BK. Hi, Beaks.
Hello.
How are you doing this morning?
I am doing fabulous. What about yourself?
I'm doing well. We're coming in with a high energy today.
Yeah, we are like zooted.
We got a fun one today. We're going to be talking about a classic attraction, opening attraction of Islands of Adventure. But before we get to that, don't forget to follow us on all the social media stuff. We are Annual_Pass over on Instagram and on Twitter. We are Annual Pass Pod over on TikTok, where I've been putting out TikToks like crazy.
Like awesome TikToks. I'm so impressed, Jack.
I'm trying different ones. I'm doing like little news bits ones, doing some preview ones.
Oh, I had one recently,
You did.
too.
You did. You had the Post 21 one. It was
Yes.
awesome. I love it. That was a fun episode. Talking with Blair was really, really cool. So hopefully we can do more stuff like that in the future. I just put out a preview episode. I've got an idea for like a thing for YouTube. It's not a TikTok. It's a little bit longer. It's kind of like a news bit. I want to talk a little bit about the stuff going on in Florida with Ron DeSantis and Disney and all that stuff. Like just keeping the politics out of it, but just trying to explain the stuff that's happening. And I started like initially it was going to be a TikTok thing, and then I was like, it kind of got bigger and like
too long. Too much.
In order to explain it kind of properly, I was like, I want to make sure I know what's going on exactly and be able to
informed.
and so. Keep an eye on that. It's youtube.com/annualpass. It'll go up there whenever I get this thing finished. I've got the script written out, but I'm like, it's still not there yet. So it might be up by now. I'm not sure. But if you go to youtube.com/annualpass, that's where we put up all of our video portions of the podcast. We upload the whole podcast live, so you can see us if you want to see our beautiful faces over there. And what else did I miss? I think that's all the socials. Don't forget, merchandise! Store.roosterteeth.com. Pick up some Annual Pass merchandise. I'm rocking my shirt. BK has this is my theme park shirt. I love that shirt so much.
It is. It's classic.
We also have the mini backpacks as well up in the store. Don't forget that. I want to do something with the mini backpacks. Like maybe some sort of contest with the mini backpacks.
Well, I mean, it's weird, but I don't know why I immediately thought about this. It's like Easter.
Yeah.
So like instead of like eggs, we put candy inside a bunch of mini backpacks and we hide them all over the place. So it's a mini backpack hunt.
I like that. I was thinking of something as like, where could you, like, what's the weirdest place you can put your mini backpack? Like maybe you can do like a giveaway thing where it's like, take a picture. Yeah, send us a photo of your mini backpack. Well, we're going to do something with that coming up soon.
I think you're onto something.
Yeah. So maybe keep an eye. Like we have a live stream coming up. When's our next live stream, Ben? I think we have one actually like right around now. I think it's, by the time this episode comes out, it may have actually happened yesterday.
Oh, no.
So,
that's exactly the case.
There we go. So maybe the next one, sometime in April, we'll go through some photos that you guys sent in. But we'll have more details on that one coming up soon. Keep an eye on our socials.
Yes.
We'll give you more information on that. But anyway, let's dive into it. Let's talk about a fun attraction, not really a ride. This is an attraction. It's a kind of a guided tour, which you know me, I love my guided tour type things. And anything you have a cast member giving spiels and stuff, I love it. We are talking about Poseidon's Fury at Islands of Adventure. How did I say that? Islands of Adventure.
You said Islands of Adventure.
Hear me now. Okay, so this attraction is over at Islands of Adventure in the Lost Continent portion. So if you walk into the park, you make a right, you go through, Dr. Seuss Land.
Yes.
A lot of people know this attraction as the one across from Mythos or the one that they pass as they're going to Hogsmeade. That's pretty much... Honestly, is kind
You're
of
not wrong.
No. So, obviously, the Lost Continent opened up in 1999, and May 28th, 1999 is when Universal Islands of Adventure opened. The Lost Continent at the time was a lot bigger because the Harry Potter stuff, Hogsmeade, did not exist when that initially opened. Dueling Dragons and I think it was the Unicorn
R.I.P.
ride.
Dragons.
Yeah. So basically, it was split up into three different sections. It was Merlinwood. It was the Lost City, I think, and I forget what Sinbad's area was called, but basically like the whole Lost Continent was a lot bigger. Has now been shrunk down into kind of the smaller things. Sinbad still isn't back. Sinbad's the Voyage of the Seven Seas. I forget.
Yeah, I feel like I remember that one.
It was a stunt show. I mean, it still is a stunt show. I mean, they haven't opened it since COVID. So COVID really kind of, killed a lot of that. This section of the park specifically, because the only attractions they had left in Lost Continent after Dueling Dragons went over and became Dragon Challenge and is now Hagrid's Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure.
Yeah.
Hagrid's Magical Motorbike Adventure.
There's probably more adjectives in it.
Universal's all about syllables. Like, how many syllables can we throw in to the name of our attraction?
And alliteration a little bit here and there.
Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure.
There
Magical
you go.
Creatures.
There you go. You need at least 2 syllables in all of them. So that area got taken up. So really, the whole Lost Con has been shrunk down. Sinbad hasn't opened since COVID started. For a long time, Poseidon's Fury was also shut down as well due to COVID, because again, it is a big group tour. The whole thing is like you just kind of crowd up. It's kind of a show happening around you. Mm-hmm. And they were keeping people with the 6-foot distance stuff.
Oh, so you need like 4 people in there instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in the normal 35, 40.
Yeah, so Universal actually took advantage of this time, and they did a massive refurbishment of the attraction. So it was due for painting and overhaul and there's a lot of water and fire in this thing. And so anytime you're running water pipes a whole lot and like gas pipes a whole lot, it's like you got to maintain those things. So they took advantage of it. They also repainted the whole attraction. It looks really, really good now. It's kind of known as like the bad good attraction. You know, it's kind of one of those things where it's like really corny. And, you know, the things you go to is like, oh, this is so bad, it's kind of funny, like that. But for what it's worth, Universal's really good about kind of leaning into that. Sure. You know, like they're really good about sort of like taking it and being like, oh, this is kind of not the highest of quality, but we'll sort of use that and kind of make fun of ourselves in the process. I don't know the last time you went on Fast and Furious. They 100% do that now, where it's like they kind of make fun of the attraction that you're in.
Okay.
The last time we were there, I think I rode it with Ben and a bunch of pass holders when we had Dave Cobb out with us.
Oh, nice.
And like, I want to say you go through 2 kind of pre-show rooms. One is like the family room, and the other is like the tech room. And in the family room, Mia, you know, like Dom's sister calls. Yes. She says family, I think, 8 times.
No.
And the cast member there just kept calling her out. He's like, I bet she's going to say family again. She'd be like, your family. He's like, called it. It is like,
that's so funny.
It's like, okay, that's funny. I dig that. Anyway, same thing with this one, where it's a really kind of corny attraction. And depending on it also is one of those things where it depends on your host, you know, like it depends on different cast members, kind of like the horror makeup show, where it's like each host sort of brings a different energy, different vibe to it.
Also like improv and stuff. Like, there's a script, but they add their own sauce.
Exactly. I mean, like when I worked at Great Movie Ride, like we all use the exact same script, but you could have a radically different show depending on how you gave that spiel. And so getting the people that are super into it, having a lot of fun with it, is really great. As a matter of fact, there's an actor out in Universal Studios that he's a kind of a taller, sort of slender guy. Mm-hmm. I've seen him perform the horror makeup show probably 3-4 times. And I was watching a video, just kind of watching the walkthrough, and it was him. He played Taylor, who's kind of your archaeologist kind of tour guide through it. And it was him, and I'm like, oh, hey, it's that guy. And he's fantastic. And so, anyway, if you get a chance and watch the which video it was the Universal Parks News Today tour of it, Poseidon's Fury full show and Q tour at Islands of Adventure. That guy who plays Taylor, is hilarious. He's a really, really quality guy. So anyway, check that one out. So Poseidon's Fury, it is part of the Lost Continent, and it's one of the only major shows at Universal's Islands of Adventure. One of the only shows that is still around from Islands of Adventure from the original opening of it. As a matter of fact, is technically the only show that still exists from the opening of Islands of Adventure.
Yeah, you said opening attraction, and I was like, wait, what? But also, I guess I've never not seen it.
Yeah.
But it's like kind of hard, like, to notice it. Like, you don't really know it's like an attraction. You're like, oh, am I just like gonna walk around? Is this like a museum? I always thought it was like a museum.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when you walk by, you see the giant like Poseidon hand holding up like the end of the trident, and you see like a foot and stuff. It's like basically a giant statue's collapsed. As a matter of fact, that is a statue of Poseidon, obviously, because he's holding a trident, and the head of Poseidon is over by Mythos. And I didn't realize that, but in the water at Mythos, there's a crashed head in the water, not the one underneath the water. That's a whole other thing. But there's another head that's like kind of smashed next to it, and that's Poseidon's head.
Okay, cool.
And so I was like, oh, I've literally never noticed that.
Could never find it.
Yeah. So I've seen his foot, I've seen his hand, but now I know his head's there too. So it's definitely one of those things you walk by, you're like, oh, that's a cool building, and you just keep moving.
Right.
Like nothing screams show or attraction at the front of the building. They do have a pretty cool marquee with like water falling down it, but again, very easy to miss.
It's too like integrated. They were like going for immersion. They're like, this is awesome. You're the lost continent. Yeah, I don't know if this is a real temple or not. And you're like, okay, well, sorry. I also missed you in the entire section. And I kept walking.
Well, I mean, it's similar to like, the Museum of Antiquities at Universal Studios, where it's like Mummy, where it's like, oh, it's just kind of looks like a museum.
Yeah.
But this very much like you're right at the front of it. And it's like, oh, okay, I can go in here. Cool. Whereas Poseidon's Fury, it's like the same sort of like face of a building, but it's way sunken back and there's like a path to get back to it. So it's kind of hard to be like, oh, I go in that thing. That's cool. And so a lot of people have missed it that way. As a matter of fact, you've never actually done this, right?
No, I haven't. That's why I'm saying that. Like, I feel like I've always was intimidated.
You had never done the horror makeup show. You had never done Poseidon's Fury. And you call yourself a Floridian? What is...
I'm failing you, Jack. I'm sorry.
From Universal's website, an explosive undersea adventure.
Dun, dun.
Follow an archaeologist guide and venture through the ruins of the ancient Temple of Poseidon, Greek god of the sea. But once you've journeyed far beneath the ocean, you're caught in a colossal battle between Poseidon and the evil Lord Darkanon. Fireballs burst, lasers flash, and water erupts around you in this spectacular special effects experience. So, this was this is a fun show. I mean, it's this one. I call it like the Vegas show of Universal of Islands, because it's very much like the stuff that happens inside of it. Like there's video and kind of animation and water and fire. But it feels like it was made in 2001, which it was made in 2001, 2002, I think is when they refurbished it.
I don't know how I feel about that comparison, because like typically, at least maybe nowadays, when you say Vegas show, you're thinking wild, over the top, acrobatics. Like
you think more like
Wildfire is what I think when I think Vegas.
Yeah, Wildfire. That's a sweet Vegas show. That's a little hot show. But or you're thinking like the Cirque du Soleil type stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's what I think immediately.
Yeah, when you say Vegas show, but like when I think Vegas show, I think like the old Caesar's Palace like statue shows.
Okay, yes. Okay, that's a great comparison.
Yeah, like the ones in the Forum where it's kind of like really rough animation.
I know, we just did all these movements.
Yeah, this is definitely an episode you want to see on the YouTube channel.
For sure.
And so it's the initial show, the original one. So the whole idea of the original show is you go into this temple, and there was an older gentleman that goes by the Keeper. He was like this guy with a big white beard. He would kind of climb out of this hole in this chamber that you're at. And he's like, and he would tell you the story about
Cain.
Yeah. He would tell you the story about Poseidon and Zeus and how they didn't get along, and like Poseidon, like essentially Zeus banished Poseidon to the city of Atlantis. And then it turns out like Poseidon, he hears you and he's like, join me in this chamber. And you go to this chamber, and like the Keeper is like, oh wow, we're in this special room. This is kind of cool. And then you speak to like this like temple sorceress goddess
deity thing.
And she opens up a doorway. The Keeper's like, oh, there's a doorway. And it opens up, and the vortex is what you see next. So the vortex is this giant, it's this walkway. It's about 18 feet wide by 40 feet long, and it's a water tunnel. And it is by far the coolest part of this attraction.
Can I just stay in the water tunnel?
It feels like Universal and engineer saw this technology and was like, let's build an attraction around this technology. It's this, so it's a pathway. You walk down it, and water shoots up and over until it's going so fast it looks like it's making a continuous circle. So it's like you're walking through a water ring. It's the coolest looking thing.
That's awesome.
And it's apparently the water itself moves about 100 miles an hour. It's just to keep itself hugging the wall using centrifugal force. Centrifugal force basically just keeps itself just kind of going in, but it drains on one side and launches on the other, but you don't see that. So it looks like it's just one continuous ring of water. It's so cool. So you go through there and you get to this big temple, and then Poseidon shows up. And he's like, it's like, welcome to Atlantis. Pretty cool, right? Just kidding. I'm going to kill all of you.
Da, da, da.
And then the Keeper's like, oh, you can't kill them. They're from the overworld. And Poseidon's like, screw you. And then he like kills the Keeper. Turns out the Keeper's Zeus the whole time.
Oh, man.
And so then there's this epic battle. And it's some of the most Mortal Kombat 4 CGI I had ever seen. It's rough. One really cool thing though, only around this version was only around for about 2 years. Jeremy Irons did the voice of Poseidon. So Jeremy Irons, also known as Scar, and like
Scar,
he did Spaceship Earth. Anyway, fantastic voice.
Bellows.
He was in Die Hard with a Vengeance, right? Anyway, so he was the voice of Poseidon, and then I want to say Zeus was actually the guy who So it was Earl Bowen, Earl Bowen, I think. He was Dr. Silberman from Terminator. I think maybe I might have this wrong. This might be the new version. Zeus? No, that's Darkanon in the new version. Okay,
Darkanon is a new one.
So maybe so Earl Bowen was Zeus. So he was Dr. Silberman in Terminator. He was the one that interviews Sarah Connor. You know,
at the station.
Yeah, kind of long-faced guy, kind of balding.
He's in a bunch of James Cameron films. Is that not him, or am I thinking about somebody different?
Bill Paxton was in a bunch of I don't know. I'm not sure, but anyway, it was that guy. If you know your movies, it was that dude.
You know.
So he did the voice of that. Apparently, he's done a lot of other voice work. He just passed away like 2 months ago.
Aww.
So that's sad. So Earl Bowen, rest in peace. And anyway, so it's the two of those guys, and they're fighting back and forth. And ultimately, of course, Zeus is going to win because he's the good guy. And then he transports you back to your safety, and like the lights flash, and all of a sudden you're back in the previous room, which is one of the coolest effects ever. So that room, like the temple room with the goddess, like when you walk into it initially, it's all sealed up and closed. Mm-hmm. She opens up a portal to get down to Atlantis. You walk through it, and then you see Atlantis. It's really, really cool. And then after the fight, literally, again, like I said, the lights flash, and you open your eyes, the lights come back on, and you're back in the room you were in before. It's a really, really cool trick. It exists. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it exists on a current attraction for another ride that just recently came out. Not gonna say which one, but it's a classic thing where it's like a sudden set reveal type thing. It's very, very cool.
You got me so scared. I was like, Jack, I swear.
I'm not gonna say what it is. Anyway, if you know, you know. Don't spoil it in the comments. And so it's a really cool effect, and that the way it worked there was really, really neat because you're in this giant room, and all of a sudden you're in a small room, and it's like, whoa, we're back to where we were, and then you exit the attraction. The plot for this attraction did not go over very well. It was very convoluted, kind of tough. Like, why would you be in this temple anyway? Doesn't make any sense. And all of a sudden, this keeper guy, why would we trust him to follow? Why do we get to go through the tunnel? It doesn't. There's a lot of kind of questions about this whole thing.
Everyone's very serious. Like, I don't understand the motivations. Why are we here? We don't belong. Are we archaeologists? Where's my badge? I need tools.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, the whole thing was like, the Universal Islands of Adventure, when it first opened up in 99, didn't do nearly as well as Universal was hoping. Obviously 1999 was around the same year that Animal Kingdom was open, so Disney was kind of on a resurgence, and Islands of Adventure was their response to it, and it just did not hit that hard. Like it kind of opened up, and it was sort of like it did well, but not well enough. And some of the big complaints involved like literally this attraction. Like, I don't understand the attraction. What does it mean? I didn't know it was an attraction. I walked past it all the time.
Right.
And so they're like, okay, let's rework this thing. So after a couple years, they actually took it down for refurbishment for about 6 months or so, and reworked the entire script, redid, like they got rid of the kind of CGI, like the animation they had, and they replaced it with some live action people. They brought in Gary Goddard, who was he worked on Terminator 2 3D. He worked on the Jurassic Park River Adventure kind of like video portions of it and stuff. Okay. He had worked with Universal on a few different things already. He also directed Masters of the Universe, the movie, the Dolph Lundgren He-Man movie.
Random,
which is weird, but anyway, so they brought him in to kind of work on that, and so he basically kind of he tweaked it and did some work to it, and so now instead of having the keeper, they have Taylor, who is now this geeky archaeologist dude who I was talking about before, and so it explains why you're there, because like, I'm getting a tour of this ancient, archaeological dig, and you show up and Taylor's like, hey, Dr. Baxter, who was going to be giving the tour, he's not here. I don't know where he is. And it turns out, he's missing. And like he just discovered something. Now he's gone. We're not sure what's going on. And then stuff starts happening. So you're in this burial chamber, or like this chamber, and it's got images of Zeus and Darkanon, who's this new bad guy. And Taylor is explaining the whole thing. And then power keeps flashing and stuff. Power goes out. And then so Taylor has a flashlight, but it's a blacklight flashlight. And there is a message written on the wall. And Taylor reads it out loud. It's Taylor because it could be a male.
Gender neutral.
Yeah, it's gender neutral. So it can be male or female. So really, they can replace it. Whereas the keeper was always a dude. So it's like, this is nice. So it's like, you'll always see that anytime you have, anytime you have shows where it's like, they're going to be replacing hosts. It's always very general names,
totally.
Like Aaron and Taylor and Pat. It's like, okay. Anyway, so Taylor reads this message, and it turns out like, that actually awakens Darkanon, who's like, join me in this next chamber. And he's like, okay, so we'll go that way. And Baxter's on the radio going like, no, don't do anything. Go to the next room, and then it's this death chamber basically. Like the door's shut, and Darkanon's like, aha, I've trapped you unless you give me.
A trap.
Yeah, it's like unless you give me Poseidon's trident.
Trident's Poseidon.
Give me Trident's Poseidon, please. Unless you give me Poseidon's tridents. I'm going to kill you all. And of course,
it's so good.
Okay?
Poseidon.
Did I lose you? It's been an early morning.
It's been early. I don't know why that tickled me so well.
So Taylor, your host, is done running around going, oh no, what are we gonna do? Mm-hmm. And they end up finding this stick, like, oh, we can use this stick to like wedge the door open, and they rip it out of the ground, and it turns out, oh, it's actually the trident.
Oh,
it was just upside down.
It was like stuck in the Sorcerer's Stone style. Got it.
And then like this mythical like sorceress kind of shows up, and her face is on this thing above this circular looking rune thing, and she's like, oh, you found the trident, I'll give you safe passage to Atlantis. And then this door opens up in front of you, and it reveals the vortex, and then the vortex is there again. And then Taylor's like, oh, let's go this way. I bet this is the way that Baxter is. And so you go through the vortex. It's super cool. You get to this big open chamber. Or no, I take it back. You get to another room that looks similar to the previous room, but it's like, oh, it's a dead end. And then the voice of Darkanon's like, oh, use the thing or whatever. And then use the trident. And then all of a sudden lights flash. And then you're in this big burial chamber, or this big room, which is kind of the big showroom or whatever. And there's a statue of Poseidon. And then there's, Darkanon's on this video screen, and it's actually like a live action actor on the screen. And is again looks like who? Not Shao Kahn. Who was the bald white guy from Mortal Kombat 4? Shinnok, I think. Or?
No. Oh my goodness, Quan Chi, I think.
Maybe that sounds right. Yeah, but it's a kind of.
I know what you're talking
very
about.
Mortal Kombat 4.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Esque looking dude. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna fight you guys, and then or he's like, I'm gonna kill all of you guys, and then Taylor runs with the trident and hands it to like the statue of Poseidon, and then Poseidon suddenly like starts changing, and boom, oh, Poseidon's here, and Poseidon's gonna save us, and then fight, explosions, and there's fire, and there's water screens, and Vegas shows, and then they bring out cocktails, and then there's a big fights.
Vegas shows. I just love how you say that, because we were watching the video, and I'm like, okay, I guess I see it now with the comparison. Like, we're gonna move this hand, and it'll affect the water, but it's a splash, but also
like he'll hit his hand down, and like water splashes at you,
or like, oh, fire! I did some magic. You're like, whoa.
Yeah. Like at the time, maybe like, oh, this is cool, but it got dated very quickly.
Yeah.
And so back and forth, and then ultimately, of course, Darkanon is skewered by Poseidon, which in this version, Poseidon's the good guy. The original version, Poseidon was the bad guy.
I feel like that makes more sense. It's Poseidon's fury.
Yeah, well, I guess his fury is that he stabs him. I don't know. It's not.
I don't get the plot, Jack. It doesn't make sense.
Let's complain to Universal. And so ultimately, then like Poseidon's like, oh, I'll grant you safe passage back, because like Atlantis starts falling apart. And he's like, oh, good luck, and be free, be good, whatever.
Be merry.
Yeah, be good. And then you touch fingers, and then the lights flash again, and then boom, you're back in that sort of like the previous chamber you were in, like the one that revealed. And so you're back in there, and like Taylor's like, we did it. And then Dr. Baxter's like, hey, Taylor, like help me, I'm over here, like come get me. He's like, oh, I'm gonna get you back. Okay, you guys go safe. And then you leave and you exit. And so like it's that's the basic walkthrough of the attraction there. I'm not gonna do a full blown thing, because the whole show is like 15 minutes long.
It's pretty long.
It's a long show. And so this thing, reopened back in like 2002, and it's 20 years old at this point, over 20 years old at this point, and it feels over 20 years old at this point. I mentioned before that during COVID, Universal took the time to refurbish it a little bit and clean it up, but they didn't really change the show at all.
Oh, no.
And so it feels like, hey, you could give this to like, some of the kids over at not Dave. What's the name of the school? What's the name of the school in Florida that everyone goes to? The animation.
SCAD?
What?
SCAD?
No. It's the Full Sail. There we go.
There
Full Sail. Yeah. Like, reach out to your friends over at Full Sail. Be like, hey, you guys want to animate this thing for
Right.
us?
Here's a school final project, and winner gets to be the show in this attraction.
Yeah. It's definitely it's a product of its time.
Or give it like a new IP. Like, I don't know what world we've got. Maybe some Warner Brothers. I don't know. Like, Uncharted. Maybe. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Give us something adventure that's not that to get behind. I don't know.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So back in like 2015, Universal made an agreement with a certain company to bring some characters to their theme parks, which we are now reaping the benefits of that out at Universal Studios Hollywood.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Think about it. What just came out at Universal Studios? Exactly.
Mario!
Universal made an agreement with Nintendo back in 2015 to bring characters from their various franchises to Universal Studios across, the planet, all their various parks, Japan, Shanghai, the States. And big rumor floating around for a long time was that the Lost Continent was going to become Hyrule, which is pretty radical. The whole idea of that.
Zelda.
Yeah, so the idea of Link and Zelda showing up in their own version of Hyrule. The Lost Continent obviously is like Greek mythology. Changing that over to Hyrule wouldn't be as significant of a change, you would think. They have the stage already for like a stunt show. Like think of a Zelda stunt show, like a Link and Zelda stunt show where he like fights Ganon or whatever, and it's like that just breaking pots. It'd be awesome.
Just breaking pots and solving puzzles.
Yeah. And I mean, there's tons of stuff, like with the Twilight Princess. Like, there's so many different things you could do. Like, I forget what it was called, but we kind of go back and forth between like light and night, like light and day, or light and dark in Zelda. It's like doing something like that in Poseidon's Fury, like using that vortex technology, because they're not getting rid of that. That's the one thing. That's like,
you got to find a way to incorporate.
Yeah, you incorporate that somehow. But the idea of having a Zelda land, or like that would be pretty incredible. And that would be, I think, the next, if this thing's going down, that's probably going to be the next change for it. Like, it's set up to have a lot of really cool stuff right there.
You blew my mind, Jack.
Yeah, well, you brought it up. I'm just saying. So that is the current rumor about that whole area, including Poseidon's Fury. I've got some other fun facts here. So originally, the attraction was going to be called Journey to Atlantis. Journey into Atlantis, or Journey to Atlantis. So
you can't do that. That's too close to one of my favorite movies.
Well, I mean, that's another thing. But it's also, the fun thing is, at the time they were building, Universal was building Islands of Adventure. Mm-hmm. I didn't know this, but there was, SeaWorld had a water park that they own, or Busch Gardens, or Anheuser-Busch, who owns SeaWorld, they own Busch Gardens. Mm-hmm. They had a park called Adventure Island, which I didn't know about this. It's somewhere in Florida.
Yeah, Adventure at the water park?
Yeah, it's a water park.
Yes.
And so
I've been.
You've been there? Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah. So basically they kind of had a lock on the name, and they were like, hey, you can't name your place Islands of Adventure because that's way too close to Adventure Island.
Yeah.
And we're not cool with that. And they were like, oh, all right, fine. And so when they were developing the park, they were trying to come up with different names to work around that. And they were like, well, we have this name for this attraction called Journey to Atlantis. Meanwhile, SeaWorld just down the road was working on a new attraction, which was you going to Atlantis on a water ride thing, and they couldn't take it, but they couldn't name it that. They wanted to call it Journey to Atlantis, but Universal had the rights to that name. So Universal and Busch did a little tradesies.
Did you trade?
Yeah, so basically, Busch said, okay, you can use the name Islands of Adventure, but we get the name Journey to Atlantis. And so that's how it all came to be.
That's insane.
Yeah, so they had to rename the attraction from Journey to Atlantis to Poseidon's Fury, but they got to be Islands of Adventure, which is kind of cool. I didn't know that.
My whole life always being confused by those two names, quite literally.
That's actually, there is a history of Poseidon's Fury video. It's theme park history. Did a really great video of the whole thing. He dives super in depth on this whole attraction and like kind of the history of it. And there's some really cool facts there. So if you want more information, go check out his channel. It's really great. What else here? So according to Universal's website, they say this live show uses 4 types of lasers and over 200 individual flame effects. What types of lasers are there? Like, I don't understand. Like, what does that mean? 4 types of lasers?
There are lasers that cut things and lasers that don't.
Yeah. Ben Lexa, can you please look up what different types of lasers there are?
How many laser?
You guys ask me way too many like physics questions for a theme park show. I'm just saying.
It's on their website, universal.com. It's this live show uses 4 types of lasers.
4 types of lasers.
The 5 main types of lasers are
here we go.
Gas lasers, solid state lasers, fiber lasers, liquid lasers or dye lasers, and semiconductor lasers.
Okay, I wonder which of the 4 they use.
And one of those is a laser that hurts you.
Yeah.
And other lasers that don't.
Yeah.
Has to be.
That Venn diagram, I guess.
Right? It's got, I didn't know there was that many
Just don't
lasers.
look into lasers. Don't look into lasers,
Yeah,
kids.
definitely don't.
That's not a good idea. So I don't know what that means exactly. One fun thing. So this is a cool thing. This attraction was actually used for a Halloween Horror Nights house.
Wait, really?
Yeah, so if you think that the last year they used the Fast and Furious attraction, they kind of used they used that area to make their own Halloween Horror Nights house. Not the first time they've used an actual attraction. So back in 2005, they used this attraction as part of the Terror Mines house, which I know because I went there.
No way.
Yeah, it was. They did all of Halloween Horror Nights was at Universal Islands of Adventure instead of Studios, and for the most part, for the most part now it's all at Studios. But at the time, it was all at this 1 year was at Islands of Adventure, and one of the attractions was the Terror Mines. The cool thing about this one is not only did you went through the vortex like in the dark with water rushing over you. Super cool.
Oh my gosh.
I want to say it was like mutated people. I forget what it was, but the big thing about Terror Mines that they did was it was a super dark house, almost no lights at all. And the way they lit it was about every 12th guest or so got a miner's helmet with a flashlight on it.
So cool.
And so literally that person would be in control of what you could see, which is super neat.
Terrifying.
Yeah. And I wonder if they'll ever do something like that again. And
Maybe.
But I didn't remember that part. I remember going through it, but I mean, this was, again, 20 years ago, so I don't remember all the stuff.
Also, the rules were probably not the same.
Yeah.
Back in 2005, a little more freedom.
A little bit more loosey-goosey.
Yeah, for sure. 2005
was the year they had the Terra Queen. She it's funny because she only comes out every 15 years to sort of like, wreak her terror. When Jeff and I went 2 years ago, so back in 2021, they pushed a year due to COVID, and in 2021, they brought the Terra Queen back.
Oh,
it's
sick.
like, it's been 15 years. I'm like, and that was the last time I went.
Oh my gosh, that's so
funny. It was like
funny.
me and the Terra Queen showed up at the same time. So not only do you get the Terra Queen, you get Jack returns to your park as well.
Besties.
So anyway, that was kind of funny. But yeah, so the Terra Queen was like, she was like the big bad of 2005. And so she popped up. There was a whole, the New York, the Central Park walkthrough.
Yeah.
That was like her area in 2021.
Oh, cool.
And so they had a whole scare zone with her. And it's like, oh, she's back. There she is. And so not as big as she was back in 2005, but still pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, this attraction itself is really, it's one of those you have to experience. It blows me away that it both blows me away you haven't done it because you've been there so many times, but also doesn't shock me that you haven't done it because a lot of people miss it.
Like, not surprised. Like, okay, you not going in there because you probably walked by it. It was like, it makes sense. It's tucked away.
Yeah. It's not. It doesn't scream I'm an attraction, and also a lot of people are walking from Dr. Seuss to Harry Potter World, and it's walking right through this. And so, really, I mean, this is the only attraction that exists inside of the Lost Continent right now. The only other thing they have is Mythos, the restaurant, one of the really nicest restaurants.
By the way,
so good.
Fire.
And then also the talking water fountain, which have you seen that guy?
I've seen the talking water fountain.
So the talking water fountain used to be it's kind of a pre-show for the Sinbad show because like the water fountain rests out in front of the entrance to the Sinbad attraction. So people would go there and he'd be like, oh, come and like he'd yell at people and spit water at kids and stuff, and then you'd go see the Sinbad show. But they've brought that thing back and is back in order, so you can talk to the fountain every now and then. Sinbad show still not around, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So well, that's gonna do it for my look at Poseidon's Fury. Now, this is the portion of the show where I ask you guys a question, and you guys answer it in the comments over at roosterteeth.com. Yes. My question for you, pretty simple. Do you think it's time for Poseidon's Fury to go?
Ooh.
It's a little old in the tooth. It's been around for about 20 years. They just refurbed it. Doesn't necessarily mean they can't take it down. They also redid the whole Shrek and Donkey meet and greet. Took that down for all the Kid Zone stuff. So, do you think it's time for Poseidon's Fury to go? Do you want to see something new there? Not necessarily Zelda, but do you want to see something entirely new in that area? Do you think they could use that space better? Why or why not? Let me know.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's I personally like it, but I also believe theme parks are living documents that can be changed and can be altered and add new stuff all the time. And so I think, unless they're going to really revamp this show to keep it, a little bit more modern, a little bit better CGI and stuff, I think they got to get rid of it. I think they got to move it on.
I think they got to switch it up. A new IP or something. Like, I think keeping the vortex is key, though.
Yeah.
It's key. Whatever it is, you got to have it. But I don't know, maybe more live actors, like double down. Like, maybe. I don't know, maybe things come to life. Like, I just need a little more.
Like, give me some like cool animatronics or something.
Something.
Yeah. Something where it's like, oh my gosh, this is something really cool. It's kind of like, initially back in '99, it was like, oh, there's some really cool effects and stuff. But it's like, over 20 years ago at
Right.
this point. Time to amp it up. Like, what's the next level of this? And
For
it's just
sure.
a big open room. You can kind of do whatever you want with it.
Zelda, 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 Zelda.
I think Ben Lexa wants some Zelda. So again, let us know in the comments over at roosterteeth.com and let us know what you think. I'm really curious on this one, and I read all of those. I love them. So thank you so much. Also, I want to let you guys know that, hey, coming up in April for our Rope Drop Run Club, folks, the registration for Marathon Weekend 2024 is kicking off in April 11th. And BK, I believe you are now locked in at least do a 5K.
I'm looking at him. If I'm locked in, Ben Lex is locked in.
Jack didn't say my name.
I know. I think you got to do it too, Ben Lexa. What are you talking about?
It's a group cosplay.
We're doing a group thing. We're still trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do.
You have to do it.
I need to start running now.
Yes.
You can walk a 5. There's no sweeping of the 5K. You can walk the whole thing. It's no problem. I'm trying to get my parents to do it. My parents in their 70s and they'll do it.
Are they going to join the group cosplay?
I don't know about that.
Depending on what it is, maybe?
Maybe. We'll see. They're not going to run for sure.
I'm going to get swept by the balloon ladies. I don't think they're even a part of the 5K thing, but I'm going to somehow still get swept by the balloon. They're just going to show up and grab me, put a bag over my head, throw me onto a bus, and be like, they'll
throw you into the lagoon at Epcot and oh gosh. So anyway, April 11th is when that opens up for non-Run Disney Club members, because there's a thing you can sign up for too. Yeah, I'm going to sign up for that. Last year it was a debacle. So tickets are they went on sale, I want to say at 9 a.m. And registration broke immediately didn't reopen until 11 a.m.
Oh, no.
It was people trying for 2 hours to access it before it finally opened. And I got lucky that I got in. And and actually I'm going to be in Florida. I'm going to be in Florida later that week for the springtime surprise races.
Nice.
So Tuesday the 11th is when they go on sale, and then springtime surprise weekend is that weekend. So that is the Pixar springtime surprise. I'm doing all of those. I'm doing a 5K, 10K, 10 mile.
Okay.
For that, super easy.
Flex, Jack. Okay, we get it. Run.
I need to start running again. It's been a while. After a marathon weekend, I really kind of am okay, I did that, and I've settled down.
Hibernate.
I know I can do it now. My body is used to doing it, so I know I can pull it off. But it's still all right. I gotta dust off the knees to make this thing happen. So, anyway, that's gonna do it for us this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We really, really do appreciate it. It means the world to us. Make sure to grab some merchandise at store.roosterteeth.com. Follow us on all the social media stuff. We're annual_pass on Twitter and on Instagram. Annual Pass Pod over on TikTok. Assuming TikTok is still a thing. I don't know. They're trying to ban it. It's a whole can of worms. But also youtube.com/annualpass. We put all the TikTok, all the stuff I make for TikTok goes over on our Instagram channel and over on YouTube as well. So if you want to see that stuff, go for it. Check that out. And that's going to do it for us this week. BK, do you feel like you learned anything today?
Yeah, I learned I need to be better aware of my surroundings, especially when at theme parks, because you can miss an entire attraction.
Yeah.
What is wrong with me?
I don't know. You mean write you a list? It'll be great.
I think so.
We'll do Hamilton style. Here's a dotted list of everything. Anyway, that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. We love you, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
See ya.